There's something a little bit different about this one. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. The Gibson EDS-1275, better known by its common name, the double neck guitar, is one of the most rock and roll guitars in history. Most typically, it allows you to dual wield a 12-string and a 6-string electric guitar at the same time. However, there's other combinations where you can have a bass in a guitar, you can have a mandolin in a guitar. The double neck realm is a slippery slope to get into. But as a guitar player, one thing you should know about these is they're a little bit harder to solo on, because right here's your 12th fret. So by the time you hit the body, you're at the 15th fret, whereas on a normal SG, you have full access to nearly everything, 22 frets plus. But even on, say, a Les Paul, it joins to the body at the 16th, but you've got a little bit to work with. Coming back to our double-necked friend here, you get cut short, and you also only have 20 frets on these things. So historically, they're not the best instruments for crazy meedly-weedly solos, but the one we're talking about tonight wanted to fix that problem. There we go, just a big old whoopity-woo, now you can get everything! While no longer symmetrical, it made it highly more playable, and essentially all they had to do was shorten this pickguard down here. Doesn't look all that bad, honestly. Gibson could put this into production if they really wanted to. But that's not all that happened to this one. You're going to notice that our pickup rings and pickguard have been swapped for wooden ones, which is a really nice complementary effect to this black finish that appears to maybe have a white primer underneath. The seller of this one was hypothesizing that maybe it started life as white and this is a complete refinish, which I suppose is possible too. But when we get to the first full body shot, this is when the collectors go, oh no, it was an original 60s one. The headstocks just have such a good vintage aesthetic to them. But look how tiny the nut width is on that thing. When you zoom out, it becomes really apparent how tiny that is. So I wonder if that was part of the custom-made attribute of this one. But now we get to the back of the headstock. Surprisingly, we're still rocking our double ring Kluson tuners, which are looking great and aged. However, oof. It appears this guitar was stolen at some point in time, because the neck with the serial number no longer has the serial number. Perhaps that's why this one was disfigured and deserialized, so it could never be identified again. But now we need to get to the story of this one. Apparently, it was owned by Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad. You know, the guys that did We're an American Band all the way back in 1973. Now, I did try to search to see if he ever played this thing live. It seemed he more so preferred these like Parker Fly looking guitars. But perhaps this double neck was instantly identifiable for some of you. But going back to our photos, you can tell it's been played heavily and in tons of smoky bars, because look at those speed knobs. Not likely original, but could have been of the 60s or 70s persuasion, but you don't see them get that ambered over too often. I suppose it's possible somebody shot them over in a finish when they were doing the refin. But the other thing that kind of caught my attention from this angle is the fact that the pickup rings do not have the bottom part of the surround. Certain angles like this almost makes it look like it broke off, because this one over here does indeed have it, but all the other ones don't. I guess when we go back over here, that one doesn't have its topper. Technically speaking, this is the bare minimum you need for a pickup surround. A place to screw it into the body, and a place for the height adjustment springs to set. But looking at that pickguard at different angles, there's actually some flame figuring within the wood too. As far as the pickups that are still in here, looks like we got patent number T-tops. So that's going to put it late 60s, early 70s. And they're there for both the 12 and 6-string side, so just those pickups are worth quite a bit. But how much is this guitar worth? It was listed for 20 grand by Irwin's Gear Emporium over in New York, and currently the listing is labeled as ended. And his story is that he acquired this guitar from Mr. Farner's friend who worked on many of his guitars. And apparently Mark did the modifications to this one. Now, if you think that's kind of expensive for a shaven serial number refinished heavily modified body, you gotta remember these original 60s ones are pretty expensive. You got True Vintage Guitar over here, who had a 1966 that appeared to be in very excellent condition. Much cleaner and not as modified as the one we were just looking at, but this was a fantastic example that he had pulled up. And according to Google here, it was initially listed at $55,000. So needless to say, really nice examples do sell for premiums. So it's not necessarily them trying to get a premium just necessarily on the guy's name. Between the time recording it and editing it, the new owner showed up. It's Eric Ernest over at Abalone Vintage, you know, the double neck guy. He specializes in these things, and he was able to dig up some more information. So he says this was definitely owned by Todd, and most likely Mark Farner of Grand Funk, but was able to share that this one was likely modified shortly after it was built around 73 and probably started out as a Sunburst like we were just looking at, and then it was reshaped and painted white, and then at some point in time it got shot black later. And then Eric has the key here of Todd's name being able to find this thing from the early 70s. And apparently he's been looking for this thing for years. So it's just like my map guitar, looking for it for years and then it just shows up. But I've got to say, that looks fantastic in white. I honestly think they need to do a reissue of this or make it a new version of the double neck because it's not all that unattractive. Speaking of beautiful double necks, if you can't and or do not want to afford the $50,000 version, occasionally you can find some really cool ones, like this one, the acoustic room listed a couple months ago for a mere $5,000. That was actually a really good price on this one. Typically your used ones will run between $4,000 and $8,000, and your 70s ones, asking prices have been going up, but generally speaking, $6,000 to $12,000. But this was a particularly vintage looking double neck, but built on 70s style specs. So we've got the maple neck with the volutes, and instead of the mother of pearl logos, you get the 70s style decals, even the vintage style tuners on this one. So that was a very nice one. But this one got the serial number on the 6-string side. And then speaking of additional cutaways, we talked about this one a couple of months ago, but Chicago Music Exchange had the 74 listed at $8,400. This one definitely looks a little bit blockier. I think I actually prefer that railroad because this doesn't fully solve all the issue, but it helps you on the 12-string side. But man, does it just end up looking goofy. Although when it's been refinished, it doesn't look as janky as it would have without some touch-up work. But if none of that's for you, here's one that CME listed about a month ago that I needed to talk about. Have you ever seen a pink double neck in your life? That is just ridiculous. So CME likes to do these shell pink exclusives, and I had never seen one like this before. A double neck is a niche guitar in itself, and putting a shell pink finish on it makes it even more so. However, at the same time, it makes it unique. It drew someone in to make them purchase it, because this did not last long, and it wouldn't have surprised me if it took them a long time to get this custom ordered. And if you made it this far in the episode, here's a little teaser for you. A viewer of the show decided to custom order a brand new double neck with me. And that order's been in for like 4 to 6 months, so I would assume sometime in 2024, we're going to have a very interesting double neck that you might not have ever seen the configuration for before. So we'll have to see how long it takes the custom shop to create that, but until then, that is our double neck talk. But hey, this episode's too short. Let's take a look at some other SGs. So I was shocked to see this thing come back up. Big Mike's selling the old Ashley SG. So we documented this for a St. Patrick's episode a couple of years back. And I always loved this SG. Just look at that cool wood grain. I ended up learning that there are rollers that you can use to create this effect. I wish more guitar manufacturers would make use of that because I think it looks incredibly cool. But last time we saw this guitar, it looked like this. But when it shone back up, somebody decided that they wanted to put the green inlays on it. But not actually green inlays, they just sprayed them over. I think I liked it better with the natural inlays. But I suppose they were just trying to match the headstock here with the painted over logos. But the reason why this one is called Ashley, it's because there's Ashley on the backplate cover. Unfortunately, we've never been able to figure out who did this or why it's called Ashley. It still has that bare knuckles P94 style pickup in the bridge. But this new owner decided to get rid of the toggle switch that did nothing, and they replaced it with a Veritone. So instead of one pickup just going to town, you got a 5-position rotary Veritone switch. So they added some more versatility to it. But it popped up for $1,100. I was tempted to buy it back and re-review it. I was shocked when this thing lasted over a month on Reverb. Ultimately, what stopped me from buying it back is this really bummed me out. Like, they were picking so hard they wore through the paint. Whereas when I had it, it wasn't quite that worn in that particular area. But thankfully somebody got it and will continue to enjoy it. But next, check this out, a rare 2002 Gibson Tony Iommi SG Signature. We had documented one of these a couple of months back. I still have it in my reverb shop, but someone was brazen enough to put an Evertune on it. So if you don't know what an Evertune is, it makes it so your guitar nearly never goes out of tune because it's got this whole spring systems and pulleys. You can learn about it in this episode when we documented it on an LTD guitar. From that experience, I actually really liked it. I would love to see some factory stock Gibsons with Evertunes because it all depends on how you have them set up, whether you can do bends or not, but it's fantastic for recording work. But to have somebody ballsy enough to do that on one of these is just fantastic, because now you've got a cool limited edition guitar, and the thing is just never going to go out of tune. You're going to have great intonation, but it does require routing out the back of your guitar. And I figure while you're at it, you might as well sand down the finish of your neck. And what's great is on the used market, you can get a fantastic deal. This one only sold for $2,000, which is like half as much as one of those things should sell for. But let me do you one even better here. This one was really tempting. This is the SG Baritone. the non-official Buckethead SG. It's got the 27-inch scale length, but somebody also put the Evertune on it. So now you can get the big chuggy metalness that you want with the tuning stability. I was shocked when it wasn't the same seller as the last one, but that would be a great gigging and recording guitar. It even still has the original case, although a replaced bridge pickup. That one sold for about $2,000, but if you want to see me document a stock version of that, you can check that out in this episode. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day, and you might even enjoy this next one.